this is the agenda that we have prepared for today. First of all, we want to introduce some key terms, just basically that will be with us along the session today. We feel that we need to bring more some clarity to some of the concepts and terms that we sometimes use as part of our conversations or as part of this presentation. Then after that, we will go through basically sharing with all of you why ecosystemOS exists. Probably many of you already know us from our long track record working in the space of startup ecosystems and innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, but we will basically want to share all the learnings that we have been collecting through over a decade and why we are doing what we are doing right now. We will continue by presenting some of the barriers that we are fixing or we are looking to solve with the solution that we are presenting here today with ecosystemOS. And then we will finalize the session with the roadmap review for this year. So bringing basically more clarity about the philosophy behind our solution. Also the building blocks that are part of our solution, and then we will go more into the details about specific use cases that we are planning to deploy this year. And then, of course, by the end of the session, we can have like an interactive Q&A to basically to try to get replied all the questions that you may have, considering the limitations of the time. But anyway, we can always keep the conversation going after the webinar through our different channels, and happy to have also separate one-to-one conversations with any of you. All right. Also, I think it's also fair to say that, of course, while we have planned a very detailed roadmap for this year, we, of course, many things are not in our control and may disrupt the planning that we have done for this year. So basically, all the features and the timelines that we are considering here in the presentation are subject to change. All right, and before getting deeper into the content itself of the presentation, we also want to share with you some very short video that basically came yesterday, and I think that will be like a really good context background for the conversations that we are about to have.
Is because this is the beginning of a new industrial revolution, and this industrial revolution is about the production, not of energy, not of food, but the production of intelligence. And every country needs to own the production of their own intelligence, which is the reason why there's this idea called sovereign AI. You own your own data, nobody owns it. Your country owns the data, it codifies your culture, your society's intelligence, your common sense, your history. You own your own data. You therefore must take that data, refine that data, and own your own national intelligence. You cannot allow that to be done by other people. And that is a real realization. Now that we've democratized the computation of AI, the infrastructure of AI, the rest of it is really up to you to take initiative, activate your industry, build the infrastructure as fast as you can so that the researchers, the companies, your governments can take advantage of this infrastructure to go and create your own AI.
So basically the message in the video is very much, it's basically the NVIDIA CEO sharing the aspect that each country should be in control of the data that is used that is becoming very clear to everyone that AI is basically as capable as data that it can work with. based on, whether it's training the AI based on the data or whether it's AI using the data as its source for information to work in the local context or national context, for that matter. So with the launch of ChatGPT, making AI household thing for everyone to understand how it works, and then also following up with even different legal challenges, like what comes with all new innovation always is the question of what is the data used to train the models and so forth. So if it was not before clear that every country, every city, every state, if they want to remain sovereign as something meaningful, meaning that the actual local government and these even make sense, it is quite clear that if you can't control the data that is part of your government's area of responsibility, as we move forward, then it means that you are no longer in control of your society, basically. So if all the other tools and knowledge and everything that is used by these AIs comes from elsewhere outside of your society, basically it means that in the digital sense, the society ceases to exist. So I think based on that, it's important to take that it's not obviously going to happen immediately, but it's important to understand what role does the data play going forward. It's not just any more information that flows. It is the essence of what the AI is. And we all know that it's quite clear how the AI is now spreading. The pace is unprecedented, has never anything like this have ever happened in our lifetimes before. It's spreading faster than electricity, it's spreading faster than internet, it's spreading faster than mobile, it's spreading faster than social networks, and everyone is using it, and it's going to disrupt basically all industries at the same time. So that's the ground base to set up the tone of why it's very important that we take this topic of data now seriously. And this means that data is basically, it is everywhere, and it is the meaning of everything in the digital sense. And that's exactly what these large language models are trained with, and that's what those large language models that drive the AIs then becomes to be. So data is eating the world, and we have to redesign it. So it basically means we have to really, as at governmental level, at society level, at all levels, we have to become literate with data access, take the data governance to our hearts, how it's actually managed in right hands locally. Think of through the regulatory frameworks, technology and infrastructure providers, software tools that we use, and then of course the role that it plays in context of innovation and national or state or city level competitiveness going forward. And then I already started with the social impact of it's gonna basically impact everything everywhere at the same time. The pace will vary per industry, per segment, and so forth. But the genie is out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back anymore. So let's get then to some of these fundamentals of what data is, and this is something that we've tried to put together. The data is so vague topic, and that it's everything and nothing at the same time. And one of our strengths as a company and knowledge experts in this field are we are usually quite take words and terms quite level of detail and try to make common sense out of it. So we want to break down data a little bit here for the context so that we know more in common sense what we are actually talking about. So first we want to establish this notion between data and information. So data is not exactly the same as information, and information is not exactly data. So that's what is the difference? So here I'm showing a piece of what data looks like as an example. So we have here city names and some numbers, and we can say this is data. And how does data separate from information? So data becomes information when it has contextual meaning. So now we all understand immediately what are we looking at, whereas here we don't know what this could be. Population, a very weird one, but anyway, it could be competitiveness ranking, or it could be anything like that. But here we know what it is the distance from this point to those cities in the road. And only thing that changed was the context, not the data itself. So basically, data with context is the smallest piece of information to understand. And if we look at this, then how does information? So information is basically everything that software and technology has ever been. From the beginning of times, when we started to talk about technology, it was called IT, information technology, that then spread to ICT, information and communication technology. But basically, it has always been, everything that happens has only been technical means of managing information. So when we start with information, what happens first? We remove the context, and then we get more granular bits of that information that is called data. And then if we put back that context, like we saw in that simple example, now we have that same information. But what else can we do when we break it information to data? We can add a new context to it, and now it becomes new information. Also, we have to be aware that if we add wrong context to data, it can definitely be wrong information. And then the third dimension of that is if we add another context, in addition to one context, we now get additional information or richer information. So let's look through a simple lens of example. If we look monthly revenue report, we remove the context. Now we have just list of numbers. And if we attach time frame and product details, now we have monthly revenue report is restored. If we add insights into customer satisfaction as additional context, now we can have new information. But if we put, for example, incorrect regions to those numbers, now we have wrong, misleading insights into regional sales. And if we put additional context like insights into marketing campaigns, now we have, if we add seasonal trends, we have additional richer information from the same set of starting information. So when we look at in the ecosystem context, a simple example, we can start by collecting simple things like a company name and a revenue number. And if we collect these, just that information without anything else, this is something quite simple. But now when we put them one by one, we can see that, okay, we could make a ranking out of it. So that would be additional context and new information extracted from information that started converting it to data and then coming up with new data based on what we can observe. So this is a super simple way of how new information is created from the context of startup ecosystem. So let's continue a little bit forward with this. This alone is already valuable for startups whose information is in question. which they are unable to extract themselves. So they can't get that ranking number information by themselves, even if they have their originated information available. So it can only be done by collecting that information together, observing it, and then being able to generate such information. But that information is also valuable for the source of where it came from, aka the companies themselves. So let's add a little bit more context. So if we here now at the startup development phase, that okay, startup C is in early phase number 1, and startup A is at the later phase number 3. Now we can question, like, okay, would the ranking still be the same? And if we add another dimension, the industry type, consulting, telemarketing, or AI, and we look at those numbers, now we can consider that is startup B really the best company out of here, with being in the development phase 2, focused on telemarketing with 300K revenue. So this is a very simple examples of working with information, breaking it down to data, adding additional context, and getting new information from it. So let's look at some of the other key technology related terminology, because we're gonna talk more in the context of the roadmap on this. So the terminologies that is important to cover is a use case. So a use case is a context, a broader context of for a scenario illustrating how users utilize an application or multiple applications to accomplish a specific objective. We have business logic, which is basically then setting the rules and processes how data is created, displayed, or changed within the context of application that works in the context of use case. Application itself, so the software that most of us kind of understand and desire and think it's the center of everything, is just a tool in the middle. It's like a hammer to do a task, whereas the use case, the context, the logic are more important aspects inside of what makes that application. A feature, so the application then the business logic can be broken down into smaller pieces in the form of features. And then the latest term in the mix, the AI assistants, is also nothing else than a piece of software that just uses a different logic and capabilities to perform a task, which most commonly is now used for answering a simple question, or helping to make a decision, or helping to generate something. But at the end of the day, it's just a piece of software. And what is relevant is what is the information input, what is the information output. And in most cases with these large language models, it can produce the output information without any data processing that is more commonly used and needed in a typical software applications. A workflow is then a sequence of tasks completed to achieve particular outcome. So whether these are a workflow that includes user triggered steps, or whether it's software steps, but it's a combination of steps put together as a workflow to get something completed, from a simple press of a button or a request, and that goes to a longer sequence to provide the answer. And finally, the key aspect also term is a user experience, for how the overall experience and satisfaction of a user is when interacting with an application or system, where the focus is the ease of use, efficiency, and most importantly, the actual value gained. Nobody uses software for fun, except it's looking for Netflix, but software part is just pressing play, if you will, or getting recommendations, pressing play. So user experience is how you get, how does the tool work? But then the other part, more important part, is what value do I get when I use that tool? And that's the information again. So if the information is the movie that you're watching, we have to understand that the value is always in the information that you consume, or that all these fancy technologies put to serve. So as a summary of this, going through the lens of terminology, all software is merely a tool, a means to an end, to do the workflow, the process effectively. All software usage boils down to either inputting information or receiving output of information. What information that is then varies in format and length and type and style and so forth, but that's all that it is. The crucial aspect is to prioritize the usability of the software. In essence, software must be capable of performing its intended function effectively with the focus of delivering a positive user experience. However, software alone cannot ensure a good user experience. The data or information it handles plays a key role. And here we really get to the essence, thus providing valuable information is key to delivering a good user experience. So equally for AI, how magical it feels, it is based on the data and information it has gained through a large language model training process or other means, or then information that is able to fetch from a knowledge base or data repository it's linked to. So in all of these systems and technology, what matters the most is being able to capture quality information effectively and comprehensively. To process this information effectively and transforming it into reusable data, so that from that reusable data, utilizing data to generate necessary, timely, and accurate information, ensuring quality, so that we can produce by additional context by combining other data points, new and valuable information. And then when we are doing this effectively, then it becomes distributing this information effectively to appropriate recipients at the right time and at the right format. So it's not enough to have that information existing somewhere and expecting people to come for it. It also needs to have ability to distribute that effectively to people. And here again, if we now think that the standard interface in the future is an interaction with an AI, the question is, how do you get your information? And what information do you have to get that for that interaction with the AI? So the meaning of the data really becomes essential. It's always been and always will be, but now I think the modern times of the AI spreading, it has this level of urgency to understand what does this mean at societal level if we don't control our own information that these systems are utilizing. Continuing then on the less visible side, definition, so the backend side, so what's happening behind the user interface. We basically have the backend overall, which is all the server-side part of the application that handling the data storage, processing, and business logic, and is invisible to the end user. The data model part is basically an information template, a structure that organizes and defines how data is stored, what data can be stored, how it can, what data can be connected and processed in a system. And interoperability is then the ability of different systems or applications to work together, sharing data and functions seamlessly. So without interoperability, applications, no matter how fancy, even ChatGPT, is just a silo that takes data in and produces data out based on what it has in its reach. So without interoperability outside, it cannot provide information or data that was not available during the training time or is not available without interoperability. A knowledge base is a digital repository containing information, guides, and answers to frequently asked questions designed to support users and customers. So equally as you can have an old school intranet in an entity or organization, you can have a knowledge base for the AI that just basically just fetch that knowledge and then delivers it in a much more user-friendly way with the better user experience by asking a question and getting an answer without needing to go navigate a website and directories and trying to find the relevant information and most likely coming faced with outdated information. A data repository is then different in the knowledge base, that it's more granular, it's more data without context, and organized in such way that if you know how to query and combine, you can create information from it. And the reason for this is that it's the smallest piece or unit of information that can be effectively stored and reorganized for you to generate and distribute new information. So from ecosystem perspective, what is key to look when we go beyond single systems, single applications, is look at the data models from the lens of standards. So at ecosystem level, what type of data can we capture? Interoperability, obviously, that applications are not just single silos. Governance, so that it's clear who is responsible of knowing what information we are able to capture, what information do we capture, and how do we distribute the information, and how do we manage the privacy and security and accurateness, so that we are not influenced by external forces to misguide our information. And then data quality, so that when information is captured and stripped down to data, that we know the process that went to doing that and how that process is managed, who is managing that process, and therefore we can trust the data quality. If we don't know that, basically it means that we can't trust the data. And most importantly, the reason for doing all of this is managing the sovereignty of the, in this case, economic development region in question, which can be city level, can be state level, can be country level. But if these things are not in own control, it means they are in control of someone else. And then that would lead to a scenario where innovation or entrepreneurship, economic development is not in own control. So data ownership, how it's managed at local level, but then also how that spreads all the way through to individuals, companies, organizations, and so forth. And then this also, you can't be responsible and know your data quality if you have no system ownership. So this basically are all the steps required to consider from ecosystem perspective. So when we package this, it becomes a data repository. So where do all those key ingredients go? So this is key to take full control of data, being able to store, organize, manage, and share data, enabling the single source of truth, your ecosystems, your societies, your economic development regions' source of truth in a trusted source of data that everyone in the ecosystem can rely on to make decisions based on their access rights. So depending their access rights, then they can see information, or they can add information, or they can distribute information based on their access rights. And these need to be controlled by those who organize the information for the ecosystem. So when we look inside the data repository, this is a great visualization by semantics, but it doesn't matter what repository is in question. It always is same, only the terms of sources may vary. So we have databases, legacy systems, applications, web services, files. They come through a process where information is stripped to data that is then stored in different formats, organized in different ways. And after that, it can be distributed for different purposes for depending on the needs. And now, obviously, the one in the right bottom corner is the one that is going to continue to spread and start to dominate all other forms of data and information utilization. So why ecosystemOS? So we believe that entrepreneurs and startups are the most effective and happiest when the ecosystem chaos is controlled, so they can focus on what matters the most, building and growing their ventures, contributing to the prosperity of societies. And so ultimately, everything is about removing friction from entrepreneurs and startups to be able to do what they do best, create new innovations and grow their products into successful companies, and that way contributing for the economic growth and also contributing by developing solutions that remove problems from the society.
I can take from here, Valto.
All right. So I'll pass on to Oscar from going from here.
Yes, thank you, Valto, and that's the reality why basically we have. Let me also share my screen. Yes, so basically connecting with this, I was saying that this is why we have created ecosystem OS. Is basically considering all the interactions happening in the context of innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems, the vast amount of information already stored and in motion between different organizations, systems, etc. So we really believe that a new way to manage all this information is needed to basically to bring more to make the life easier for entrepreneurs and those who are supporting directly or indirectly entrepreneurs and startups all around the world. And in order to find like a good solution for this fundamental problem that has been proven globally. So basically, it's very important to understand also the kind of barriers that each of those ecosystem actors are facing, and how we can solve basically these problems or these challenges that they are facing along the way. So here we have basically tried to summarize in our view, based on our experience, but also based on existing reports coming from different parts of the world and coming from different ecosystem maturity levels. So we wanted to bring here like the kind of core problems or barriers that we are identifying, not only for entrepreneurs, but also for those that are having that kind of role at ecosystem level, trying to manage and coordinate and orchestrate the whole ecosystem. So those barriers are these, like lack of efficiency in navigating resources and support services, lack of accurate and holistic understanding, no single source of truth of data you can trust, and data cannot be exchanged amongst different ecosystem actors. And there's a logical, I would say, connection among these four barriers. So let's focus first on, for example, on the lack of efficiency in navigating resources and support services, and the lack of accurate and holistic understanding from those who have to operate and orchestrate the ecosystem. So these two barriers are directly related because the efficiency with which entrepreneurs can navigate resources often depends on how well those operating the ecosystem understand its complexities and needs. And if the ecosystem operators have a comprehensive understanding, then they can better organize and communicate available resources, and therefore improve efficiency for entrepreneurs. If we move to the following one, so between the lack of accurate and holistic understanding from those who have to operate and orchestrate the ecosystem, and the barrier related to no single source of truth of data you can trust. So in this case, the understanding of ecosystem operators is enhanced by having access to reliable and comprehensive data. And again, without a trusted source of data, I would say it's challenging for ecosystem operators to gain an accurate overview of the ecosystem, and leading to, I would say, inefficiencies and misaligned support. Then if we look at the the relationship between no single source of truth of data that you can trust, and data that cannot be exchanged. So these two barriers are linked because the ability to exchange data freely is, I would say, a prerequisite for establishing a single source of truth. If data cannot be shared due to technical or regulatory barriers, it becomes, I would say, nearly impossible to consolidate information into a trusted and singular source. So basically, this fragmentation hinders the reliability and accessibility of data for decision making. And last but not least, these two barriers between the data that cannot be exchanged and the lack of efficiency in navigating resources and support services. So basically means that the exchange of data is crucial for maintaining up-to-date and accessible resources and support services. And when data about these services cannot be easily shared among stakeholders, it contributes eventually to the inefficiency entrepreneurs face when trying to access the support that they need. So again, in summary, basically these four barriers are interconnected, where basically the lack of a holistic understanding and reliable data underpins inefficiencies in navigating the ecosystem and exchanging information. And addressing one of these barriers effectively can definitely have like a really positive impact on the others. And basically, this is the way that we are looking to solve this kind of barriers. At the same time that we try to bring more clarity about the problems that we are trying to solve, and that also connects with where ecosystemOS is positioned into the market, because we are all aware about other service providers providing different kind of services for startup ecosystem development. And in our view, each of those actors or providers are catering for different needs, but at the same time, we also believe that we are all complementary, and definitely it makes sense to also to work collaboratively, which is also aligned with the nature of any ecosystem. So basically, the way here to also to the key concept here is that basically ecosystems becomes more connected. Basically, the more connected that they are, the more intelligence they gain. So the vertical axis represent ecosystem connectedness, which ranges from identifying individual parts at the bottom to a holistic view at the top. And the horizontal axis, so the ecosystem intelligence, shows basically a progression from raw facts to insightful ecosystem intelligence. Starting with raw data at the base, so which consists of factual transactions and activity data. We process this data to organize and research it, leading us into the information phase. So this phase focuses on mapping, aggregation, and ranking, which organize the data and helps identify patterns or trends, giving us more context and relevance. The next phase is knowledge. So here, the earlier mapping, aggregation, and ranking processes of the information phase are basically augmented by adding context and meaning to the organized data. And data sharing, integration, and distribution here are key activities in this stage, where disparate pieces of data and information are combined and contextualized to form a comprehensive understanding. And this is the point where basically information transitions to knowledge, providing also actionable insights that are very valuable for decision making within the ecosystem. And finally, at the highest level, we have ecosystem intelligence, and this is basically where we apply our insights and reflections to achieve a really comprehensive understanding of the ecosystem, drawing from the interconnected and enriched knowledge base. So basically, we want to use this diagram to also to help position other actors, like for example, in the research and surveys phase. So we find very relevant actors like Startup Genome or the Kaufman Foundation or the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. So basically, they are this type of organizations focus more on doing research about ecosystems. Then on the information side, basically we find also key actors like Dealroom or GAST or F6S or SourceLink or Startup Link. So basically they are doing this kind of aggregation. We should also actually involve here a Startup Genome, who is very well known through the rankings. And then basically all of them, the common thing that they bring to the game is basically that they provide like a good overview of many things, many moving parts happening within the ecosystem. And then where basically ecosystemOS wants to be positioned is more on capturing the raw data, the factual data, the transactional data that is already happening based on interactions between different organizations, between individuals, between machines, if you will. And then the other aspect of this spectrum that we want to cover basically is around the knowledge and the intelligence. phases. So basically, we want to provide answers about what is happening, but also why did it happen, what is happening now, what might happen, and what is likely to happen, adding some kind of forecasting abilities for ecosystem development. So basically, this is basically where we want to be positioned into the market. And as I said earlier, we cannot do this alone. We need the collaboration, not only with the local actors involved in developing the ecosystem themselves, but also with those that are providing solutions for ecosystem development. So at this point, I will also hand over to you again, Balto, so you can continue with the now with the roadmap review.
Yes, thank you, Oscar. So let me also share from my side, and we'll continue from there. All right, so yes, so let's now dive into a bit more into our 2024 roadmap for ecosystemOS. And basically we have at this point a great alignment for those who have not yet started their digital transformation for their innovation entrepreneurship ecosystems, because we are basically starting the transparent and open roadmap forward from our side, also to put instead of, so far we have been doing basically these custom projects for individual ecosystems and building different technology solutions, and of course doing also ecosystem assessments and mapping. But now we haven't provided end user offerings, so meaning services for entrepreneurs, services for support organizations, or so forth directly. So the only option to get ecosystemOS from a local city, country, region perspective is to initiate a project with us to develop that. But we see the world moving too slow. Unfortunately, world is not waiting. World is moving forward and at accelerating pace. So basically, what we have created is a roadmap to show leadership in this space, to show what is possible and how these things can work in practice. We are initiating a global roadmap and putting also these end user solutions out there. So this is the perfect time also for ecosystems to start their local developments in synchronization with our global developments. And then if the best time is today, the next best time is tomorrow, any point where the ecosystem is ready. So the roadmap perspective, basically, that we look we want to make the starting point as simple and easy to get started as possible. So this is the logic. So if you look at the data quality and risk level side here vertically, we start with least sensitive data, public data, and then we move to private data and ultimately sensitive data. So what is the difference? So think of public data as like news or your LinkedIn profile, things that you want to keep public anyway. And then the sensitive data is like your social security number. So think of the most sensitive, your bank account balances, things like that you definitely want to keep and is sensitive. And of course, in business context, these things vary, but that's the point. The other dimension is the capabilities and liabilities. Those goes hand in hand. So the more sensitive data we add and the more capabilities we add, then the more liability and responsibilities we add. So obviously, if we look from this perspective, the best way to start is having the lowest liability perspective with public information and with limited capabilities. And from here, we move gradually in the roadmap forward, where we start capturing more real-time data and interactions more from the private data. Think of this a type of CRM records or information that is shared per need, per request for funding application or whatnot. And in the first corner, you can think events data and so forth. And as we move forward, ultimately, when we can trust the real-time data and private data, and we have users with their profiles and credentials in the system, and we can trust our data processing capabilities, or you can trust your data processing capabilities in your own management, we can move to automating matching and items and bring more intelligence on top of that, being aligned with what Oscar said. So this is how we are looking to develop the functionalities, the features that we're going to put out from the global perspective for anyone operating and navigating at global level, but we will always leave local to local developments. That's not where we can contribute to, but we can contribute for those who responsibility the local context is to have the best solutions, the most open, least vendor locked solutions, and then also help connect those between each other. So for this year, we are starting from this perspective, and basically the key building blocks, and here again, trying to simplify the complexities of technology as much as we can. So in the application layer level, we have basic accounts and profiles of actors, and then we have two categories of application types for startups and service organizations. So think of them as entities. So companies, businesses, or organizations providing support services. And then we have the ecosystem management level. So this is then where interoperability, governance, data models, international connections, and so forth come to play. Liabilities, legal, regulatory aspects, and so forth. And then the key other component, backend side, we have the data repository that withholds all the backend software that is not visible to users, including the AI engine and AI, but we don't even need to mention it separately because it's just a piece of software like anything else, just a smarter piece. But nevertheless, the point of that is to manage data and information. Then we have the data models that what the data repository is able to capture, and we have knowledge base, which is the information that is available to be retrieved without combining data pieces and so forth. And then the interfaces to connect these applications to the data repository. So basically, these are the 4 different applications that we are going to put out in this quarter. So we have Voyager, which is basically for entrepreneurs and founders. We have Station, that is for support organizations. We have Orchestra, that is operative ecosystem development. So those who do the operative work at ecosystem development level. And then we have Skyview, which is for economic development units. So those who make decisions are responsible for governance decisions, look for KPIs, policy, and budgeting to basically enable these developments in their local society at ecosystem level. And then each of these are connected to the shared data repository and knowledge base. And of course, access for entering data or retrieving data is dependent on the access rights of those actors behind each of these different application types. Our principles for ecosystemOS are hard-coded and very important to understand. So we have one application type tailored for each user segment, as indicated here. These are the key actor types within any innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem. full ownership of data by users. So not only ownership of data at ecosystem level, but we always promote full ownership of data by its actor type, organizations, and so forth. Freedom from vendor locks at ecosystem level. So everything that you can start as a software as a service from our side, you can always own at any point when you have capabilities in your ecosystem to take full ownership of the systems. So we don't develop software to lock vendors. We don't harvest data to own the data and then sell it back to those where it originates. We don't use the data to train the systems and so forth. Simple initiation process with an option to full ownership at ecosystem at any moment. And commitment to global open standards serving as a neutral operator and ecosystem connector. So that final piece is the role that we then continue to play between ecosystems when ecosystems may start with software as a service approach with us and then gain full ownership. There's still a role to play for us to connect these ecosystems together so that they don't become silos, but not in such way where we would have that data at global level. We are simply distributing it between the ecosystems. So on the roadmap, the use cases that we are looking are focusing on the earlier phases of the startup development for these applications. So we are looking at things like business plan creation. How can this be turned into a application experience? And then a snapshot of data that can be captured from such a use case. And that is then modeled into data repository for reuse and additional extraction. Shareholder agreement, basically how do founders commit to their venture, and we know that there's a high demand globally in doing this effectively, and most startups don't do this because it's not available or it's not even a focus matter from the support service side in many cases. Yet it's the single most important piece that the financiers look to make sure when there's more than single founder. Types of data that can be captured with this type of approach or this use case. Then we have a journey log use case, which is basically dual side, looking at how entrepreneurs and startups navigate the ecosystem through interactions with support services, and then what information is captured in those interactions from both sides, and then tracking the startup's progress as they navigate ecosystem across different support service interaction action points. And the snapshot of data that can be captured through this type of use case is here at high level. And then this again are all going to go into our data repository, data modeling, aka information template documenting, so that we have a backend that can support this type of data. So the ecosystem journey basically can dramatically, with ecosystemOS, we can dramatically accelerate the progress to remove barriers. The process is always the same to approach. We need to start taking pieces of the ecosystem, aka use case at a time, and then put it in the system that is capable of scaling and can be trusted due to the transparency and ability to own the system at any point when the capabilities emerge, whether from the very beginning or later in the process when already being able to use and see the value of systems operational in own ecosystem. So basically the starting point, the onboarding can start from our hosted global service, and then taking the ownership at any point, or it can start directly self-hosted. From our perspective, we are happy to support either way. We have always been doing the self-hosted so far, but we see that the pace is too slow and we need to start providing alternative approach and show practical example at a lower level of ecosystem actors than just the economic development units, and therefore we want to add more transparency to the overall roadmap and ability to find a starting point, even if you are a single entrepreneur or a single support organization. So with that, we have covered all the topics. We are a few minutes over, but we are happy to open the floor for any Q&As that you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Valto. Thanks for this review of the roadmap. We have a couple of questions coming from the audience. So the first one is like, is there a beta example to review on how an entrepreneurial ecosystem builder uses AI to input data, offers such data to entrepreneurs, and shares such data with other ecosystem builders and entrepreneur support organizations?
Yes, so there are beta examples. We don't have example to show the end-to-end pipeline there, but we can show a piece of window at this point. So until we get all those, let's say, at least 2 out of those 4 applications up, then we can show kind of a more live funnel or interaction across multiple applications. But so far, basically on our website, you can navigate and get a trial of our Startup Ecosystem Advisor AI that has a knowledge base of our Growth Academy Innovation Entrepreneurship curriculum. And you can ask things that exist in that curriculum, startup development phases or shareholder agreement or whatnot. And we do have also at ecosystemOS, so that you can find from the ecosystemOS website and also Startup Commerce website. And then we also have on the ecosystemOS website, we have a demo from our previous webinar where we showcase how it's not available as a beta to test, but there's a demo showcase where we show how you can input knowledge and make that knowledge available in a scalable way through an AI interface. So basically you can put knowledge, let's say you could say, how do you register a company in Delaware? And then first the information is there, you can ask question and it says, unfortunately, I don't have that information. And then you enter documentation about how you register a company in Delaware. And then after that, you can ask it from AI. But not only that, without any extra effort, you can ask in any language. So you can ask in Spanish, you can ask in Finnish, you can ask in Polish, and it can still be able to explain how you register a company in Delaware. So that's the power of AI in practice. It uses the knowledge that you give, but it can do many other things automatically because of these large language model capabilities without any effort. You can also say, sorry, I didn't understand. Can you explain that in a different way? So it's not constrained by how the knowledge is given to be able to answer in more simple terms or other ways, explain it longer or shorter. It just uses the knowledge itself, but it can articulate in many different ways and many different languages. So that basically is worth looking at. And then we also show how you can, what type of insights you can get from the interactions that are happening with users asking those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Valto. Yes, and definitely we have those resources available in our different channels. So definitely they will be part of the follow-up email that we will send after the webinar, including those cases to basically to get better clarity on that use case. Then we have another question from Tim. So the question is, are you looking for organizations to participate in a beta phase that integrates AI into a local regional entrepreneurial ecosystem?
So yes, without knowing more detail of what type of organization and from what perspective, I can say that it depends. But for most parts, I would say that definitely yes. So at minimum, we are very much wanting to understand more and are looking very much to connect anyone who likes to just who sees the perspective from that the world is moved forward and very little is happening, and seeing that maybe there's something I can do to help. Coming from any role in the ecosystem, we are more than happy to connect to systems and show what's coming, and also involved in practical betas to land services also locally. With that said, also I want to make it clear that the path for starting is already available through our ecosystemOS website. So any ecosystem level who wants to already initiate their own AI path and get started with our software service-based data repository that they can later take ownership is available by simple subscription of putting a credit card there and getting started, and will initiate the process to create a local AI for your ecosystem.
All right, so I think we don't have more questions. So also maybe if we give like few minutes more before concluding, I would also like to say that this is a kind of webinar that we are planning to repeat more times during this year. So definitely there will be another one just before the summer break, and this year there will be another one by the end of the year before the Christmas break, and then starting from 2025, basically the plan is to give a kind of quarterly update with the progress and adjustments related to the roadmap. But one thing that we also want to mention today is also the how we are also looking to share the in the upcoming webinars more around the roadmap. Of course, one big part will be about adjusting our timeline and basically providing the kind of progress update related with the solutions that we are putting out there. But we are also looking to share more about also the kind of impediments or obstacles that we are facing along the way, the kind of also failures that we will encounter during this journey, how also the whole global community is adopting this, the cases that we are activating globally. Basically, all these things combined hopefully will contribute to get more clarity about how things are moving forward, and definitely it will become more relevant for you to get like a proper understanding for your own decision-making process, looking at initiating this kind of implementation. So with all this said, so as we don't have more questions for this session, so then I think that we can conclude here. We really want to thank your participation. And again, let's see you all soon. We are happy to reconnect through our channels to have more one-to-one conversations, trying to understand your case and assess the opportunity with you. And then in the following weeks and months, we will start also communicating more about the progress that we are making and the upcoming webinars that we are planning to host. So thanks everyone for attending, and see you soon again. Bye.